Yeah, morning everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Shark Dive, the place where we take a deep dive into the wonderful world of sharks. I'm Ron Johnson, the host of the Shark Dive, and today we're going to look into a news report of a recent sighting of a great white shark in the coastal waters of Alabama. Now, what makes this newsworthy is that white sharks are typically not seen here, and indeed on most of the news feeds it's reported as the first time a great white shark has in fact been sighted in Alabama's waters. Now, this leads to a number of questions, many of them concerning what do the people of Alabama think about this. Is this suddenly a new threat, a new danger, something they must consider when now entering into the water? Also, other interesting aspects of the story comes up. How does the common, popular, what do we call it, mainstream media report this? Do they go for that sensational blood guts fair angle, or do they give it a more nuanced, responsible approach? And then from a scientist, I want to start asking questions such as, is this really the first time great whites are going to Alabama? Has there been a distribution change and now we've been able to document, or has this been happening over many years and we simply haven't seen it? Or in fact, the third option, has this been happening over many years and scientists do know about it? It's just a matter of fact that maybe today was a slow news day and they had to create a story out of it. So, with that said, I'm just going to play a clip from our friends at Fox 10.
Story. There's a new great white shark spotted off the coastal Alabama area, and her name is Miss Pawla.
All right, researchers from the University of South Alabama captured video of the juvenile female shark, approximately 8 feet in length, while monitoring fish movement near the state's artificial reef zone.
Cool. The first sighting was captured in mid-April with underwater cameras during a survey along with researchers from Mississippi State University and Florida's Fish and Wildlife Research Institute.
10 days later, she was still roaming the same site, but this past Friday, May 3rd, she was gone.
Where did she go? In the U.S., white sharks are increasingly common in the cooler waters off New England and California. This is really cool. Fox 10 Live, our friends Shelby and Lee, they actually are going to speak to a professor with USA about their findings and learn more about Miss Pawla.
That is really...
Yes. Where did it go? Okay, so what do we take out of that? Well, I think the first thing is, obviously they did a pretty good job. They didn't sensational it too much. She couldn't help herself with that where did it go, Jaws type thing. Is it off your neighborhood at the end of it? But overall, not too bad. There are a few news stories about it. This one is from 15 News. I just want to read a little bit about it. So, rare great white sighted off Alabama coast. And, I'm scrolling through, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but researchers at the University of South Alabama captured video of the juvenile female great white shark hanging around Sandhouse Lighthouse. According to a new release from the USA, this is the first known sighting in the area recorded by a scientist, and this juvenile shark has never been recorded before. Quite an interesting little sentence that if you look into it. This is the first known sighting in that area recorded by scientists. So it's not in Alabama, it's in that area which I assume is the Sand Island Lighthouse. So they're trying to imply that, this is possibly, lack of a better word, invasion of great white sharks into the area that they were never there before. But being responsible reporters, they can't say that outright, so it's more sort of an implication. There's a little bit further down here where they do start, referring to beachgoers. How do beachgoers view this or consider this? And what does the quote say here? Most beachgoers are not as excited to hear about the shark sighting as Lillian Nakum was. She said that the video of Miss Pawla, our shark, you do not see every day. And her quote was, "I've never been afraid of it," she said. "I don't think that they are really after people unless you get in their way or do something to provoke them." So yeah, interesting take, an interesting way to put it. Again, if we go back to the first part, not as many beachgoers took the same view or were excited to hear about this shark as the only person we actually interviewed, Lillian Nakum. So the one person I interviewed actually had really no problem with the shark, was quite excited by it, didn't believe it was a danger, and thought, the only time that it does represent a danger is if you go and, hook it, pull it out of the water and try to give it a big cuddle and provoke it, and then it turns around and bites you. So you actually had the local from Alabama being moderately and pretty positive and responsible about it, but the news outlet decided she was in fact an outlier, whilst not being able to quote a single part of the main population that are supposedly not really excited about the sharks present. So, Fox, better job. These guys, pretty reluctant. What I want to go into next is the science behind it. Is this in fact a unusual occurrence, finding a great white shark in these waters? Is it a normal occurrence that simply has not been reported before, or was it a slow news day and they had to basically create this impression that this was a brand new sighting or a new discovery, never happened before? But that, scientists or the nerdy folks like me who go on to the scientific literature actually have known about for a while. I've closed that down, so I'm just going to OSearch Shark Tracker. This is an incredible resource. One I'd really suggest. Just Google OSearch Shark Tracker, jump onto it, and what it is essentially the work by Chris Fisher, Brett McBride, his teams, or their team at OSearch, and a number of really good scientists. Bob Huter was there, and so forth. And what they've been doing is essentially going around the world. They work with scientists to put satellite trackers on lots of different sharks and marine species, and they track them, and then what they do is really cool, is they put it up online, free, available, open source, so you can go on at any time and in fact track sharks along with them. You get the data pretty much the same time as that data is coming in. And I'm just going to do a real quick rough, but you can go into any one of the sharks, look at their individual tracks and so forth. So in this map here, you can see they've done a lot of work. Here's Alabama. Here's the coast of Alabama, and these are obviously the waters that they're talking about. Not all of these are individual tags, but obviously not all of them are great white sharks. Some of them can be hammerhead sharks, turtles, bronze whalers, copper sharks, grey nurse sharks, many different species. So we're just going to go straight into their filter. I'm going to filter down to great white sharks, or white sharks as they call it. All of them, male, all time, and one more little thing. This is going to take a few seconds to render, because basically I've looked at their entire database and I want to show all the track positions from the last 15 years. And you can see this is the work I conducted with OSearch back in 2012 and 13, where we tracked sharks off South Africa, and in recent years you can see they've done a lot of work off the eastern seaboard of the USA. Here we go. And so we're just going to start zooming in. As I say, it's a lot of data I've got at the moment, so rendering is a slight issue. And we're just going to zip into the waters of Alabama. So here's Alabama, and what you can see is great white sharks do in fact swim off the coast of Alabama. Right there, you can see them. So, straight away, mystery solved. This isn't a new occurrence. This isn't something that has not happened for the last, or it was just started happening. If you scroll over here, you can see 2021, 2021, 2024. So it's been happening over the last 4 or 5 years, and scientists have known about that. We have been, or the OSearch team here in this case has been tracking them. So, still, what else can we tell about this? Well, the guys here have spent most of the time on this, eastern seaboard, so there's a lot more data from here. But one thing that does stand out that is fascinating is that when on this eastern seaboard, great white sharks do seem to spend a lot more time really close to the shore. As they come around this Florida, you see most of the hits there, it starts going offshore, and this is quite a significant distance offshore. Most people think of great white, or most scientists think of great white sharks as a very coastal species that take occasional forays out into the deep oceans as part of their natural behavior, but do like to spend a lot of time really coastal. So it is interesting that when they do come into this Gulf of Mexico, that they for some reason seem to like staying out of this real coastal water and rather spend time around a little bit deeper. If we do zoom out, the other thing you can notice straight away is that Alabama here is pretty much on the edge of their natural range of this population. There is a chance that it's simply because most of the sharks were tagged on the eastern seaboard that it's a subpopulation and they didn't swim around in the Gulf of Mexico. But I know for a fact, if you look at other sharks like hammerheads and so forth, OSearch did a lot of tagging in the Gulf of Mexico, and if there was a large number of great white sharks, they would have been able to put tags on great white sharks in that area, but simply they weren't able to track or locate sharks, white sharks in this Gulf of Mexico to tag. So that means a lot of the tagging and a lot of the activity does seem to be on this side of that Florida peninsula, and very occasionally the sharks do move around, spend deeper. So yeah, there are a number of papers out of here. Here's one paper with different satellite tags, and you can see again their sharks did also go around into Florida, and when they did, if you look on the right hand side here, you can see what is called a kernel density plot, where they look at where great white sharks spent most of the time, and you can see that reddy area there, parts of New Jersey, and even a little bit maybe up into the sort of Nova Scotia area seem to be their big focal points of that population, with the Alabamian waters right there on the edge of where they do want to occur. So, interesting, fascinating stuff. The then takeaway is that yes, great white sharks live in the water, but more importantly for people of Alabama, that this is not new. Great white sharks have been in your water. They will continue to be in the waters off your coast. They do seem to spend a little bit time deeper offshore, opposite your state, not really closely coastal like in Florida and New Jersey and areas like that. And it does seem to be right on the edge of their natural range. So sightings are always going to be rare, and if for some reason you do have a sighting, just like these scientists involved in this research project, get really excited. It doesn't happen every day. So I think the scientists have really good reason to be excited with a sighting, because it is a very rare occurrence, but definitely not something that is new or so rare that it could be said that we don't know about it or we didn't know about it. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on this rare sighting of a great white shark in Alabama that happened over the last few weeks. As always, disagree with me, or you got something to add, or some insight that I've missed, jump into the comments, throw it up there. Let's have a discussion, let's chat about it. I love sharks. I love talking about sharks. If you do also, make sure you subscribe, join the conversation, and until next time, this is me, Ryan Johnson, signing off for the Shark Dive.